It is with significant frustration and disappointment that I'm not going to be in Alaska with Senator Murkowski for the visit of Secretary Ash Carter, the Secretary of Defense, to Fort Wainwright today. Senator Murkowski and I were scheduled to be up there, but a series of mechanical problems on the aircraft we were flying just made it literally impossible for us to get to Alaska this afternoon. So what I wanted to do was just show Alaskans and the media, and we're going to send this to you, the briefing, the advocacy document right here that we will be briefing Secretary Carter on very soon, and was going to be part of our meeting today at Fort Wainwright. It really focuses on some key areas that we want to make sure the Secretary is well aware of. He's aware of a lot of them, but there's no place like being in Alaska to fully understand what these issues are. The first is our strategic location and how critically important we are, not only in terms of the Arctic, but the entire Asia Pacific and the Northern Hemisphere. Second, we're going to talk about the recent threat assessment, particularly in the Arctic and the Asia Pacific, with the significant buildup of Russian forces throughout the Arctic and Russian military exercises. Third, we are going to emphasize the National Defense Authorization Bill that's been vetoed by the President, but we think will either be overridden, will override that veto, or get another defense authorization bill on his desk soon. That has a number of provisions, including the requirement for the Secretary of Defense to put together an operations plan for the Arctic. Fourth, how Alaska has become the hub of combat air power for the entire United States Air Force. He will certainly get a briefing on that from Lieutenant General Handy, but whether it's the incoming F-35s, the F-22s, the F-16s, our enormous strategic airlift, we are the hub of America's combat air power. We're also the cornerstone of America's missile defense, and we're going to talk to Secretary Carter about the significant advances, particularly in the Defense Authorization Bill, of Alaska's missile defense, which will keep all of America safe. Certainly, we're going to focus a lot on our great soldiers in Alaska. The two brigade combat teams, the Arctic Wolves, the 1st Stryker Brigade at Fort Wainwright, and of course, J-Bears 425, the only airborne brigade combat team in the entire Asia Pacific and the Arctic, and how important they are to the national defense of our country. This is something I advocated for when President Obama was in Alaska. We'll talk about J-Park, how we have probably the best training area in the entire United States. And of course, Alaskans, what great supporters we are of the military. No other state supports their military like we do, like the family that they are. And finally, I will continue to emphasize our priorities, which are priorities for Alaska, but I believe priorities for our nation. Preserving the 425 as the only airborne BCT in the entire Asia Pacific and the Arctic, not delaying the bed down of the F-35s coming to Eielson, ensure robust missile defense, which I know in my previous meetings Secretary Carter is very interested in, and make sure that we're basing new aircraft, the KC-46, at Eielson as well. That's the brief. We're going to make sure he continues to hear these issues, whether in Alaska today or back here in Washington, D.C., and I want to make sure all Alaskans know we're going to continue to advocate on Alaska being the cornerstone of America's military defense in the Asia Pacific and the Arctic, and it's going to be great to welcome Secretary Carter in Alaska today. I just wish Senator Murkowski and I could be there to do it as well. Thanks a lot.